Imagine a place where children were sent for spiritual guidance and education, a sanctuary promising discipline and faith. Yet, for countless young souls, these very institutions became sites of profound trauma, their trust shattered, their spirits wounded. This is not just history, it's a critical call to action, a hopeful plea for healing, and a demand for justice that echoes through generations. Across America, Christian boarding schools once stood as beacons of hope for families seeking moral formation and academic rigor. Parents, often desperate or devout, entrusted their children to these institutions, believing they offered a path to a better future. They envisioned safe havens, guided by unwavering faith and dedicated educators. But beneath this veneer of piety and purpose, a darker reality often festered. Historical records, courageous survivor testimonies, and investigative reports reveal a pattern of systemic abuse, neglect, and authoritarian control. This wasn't just isolated incidents. It was a pervasive culture that operated behind closed doors, leaving an indelible mark on thousands of lives. The 19th and early 20th centuries saw a significant expansion of Christian boarding schools, often driven by sincere religious conviction. These institutions promised to train up a child in the way he should go, a biblical mandate frequently interpreted as justification for absolute authority. Students lived in highly structured environments, isolated from their families and the outside world. This isolation, coupled with unquestioned spiritual authority, created fertile ground for abuse. For historians, understanding this era requires examining the societal norms that permitted such unchecked power. For religious leaders, it demands a critical look at how Scripture was weaponized to control rather than nurture. The stories emerging from these schools are harrowing, yet essential for our collective awareness. Survivors recount physical punishments that far exceeded discipline, including beatings, forced labor, and extreme isolation. Emotional and psychological manipulation was rampant, designed to break a child's will and foster absolute obedience. Neglect of basic needs, from adequate food and medical care to emotional support, was also common. These abuses left deep, enduring scars, manifesting as PTSD, complex trauma, and profound trust issues. For trauma survivors, hearing these accounts can be both validating and re-traumatizing, underscoring the urgent need for compassionate support. The perpetuation of abuse was not merely the work of a few bad apples, it was enabled by systemic failures. A critical lack of state oversight allowed many religious institutions to operate with minimal regulation, often claiming broad exemptions. This created an environment where accountability was virtually non-existent. Power structures within these schools were often hierarchical and opaque, with clergy and administrators wielding unchecked authority. There were no independent reporting mechanisms for students, no external inspections, and no meaningful avenues for redress. This systemic vulnerability, as historians can attest, is a recurring theme in institutional abuse. Adding to the systemic failures were deeply ingrained cultural attitudes and theological misinterpretations. The belief that harsh discipline was necessary for spiritual formation, often encapsulated in phrases like "spare the rod, spoil the child," provided a religious justification for practices that were inherently abusive. This philosophy, while seemingly rooted in faith, tragically distorted the core Christian principles of love, compassion, and justice. Religious leaders today must confront how such interpretations allowed harm to flourish under the guise of piety. Educators must recognize how these cultural blind spots prevented the implementation of child-centered, trauma-informed practices. This historical analysis is crucial for preventing future abuses and fostering genuinely safe faith communities. The impact on survivors is profound and lifelong. Many grapple with shattered trust, not just in institutions, but in relationships and even in their faith. The spiritual wounds are particularly deep, as the very foundation of their belief was used to inflict pain. Some survivors have walked away from faith entirely, unable to reconcile their experiences with a loving God. Yet, amidst the pain, there is also immense resilience. Many survivors have found strength in advocacy, sharing their stories to protect future generations. Their courage is a beacon of hope, demonstrating the human spirit's capacity to heal and fight for justice. For trauma survivors, these shared narratives offer validation and a pathway to collective healing. In recent decades, increased awareness and advocacy have led to some significant reforms. More states now mandate inspections and licensing for residential facilities, including religious schools. Mandatory reporting laws for suspected abuse have been strengthened, and some institutions have adopted more transparent disciplinary procedures. Progress, however, remains uneven. Gaps in regulation persist, and the tension between religious freedom and child protection continues to be debated. For policy reformers, the challenge lies in crafting legislation that respects religious liberty while unequivocally prioritizing the safety and well-being of every child. Religious leaders bear a unique responsibility in addressing this dark history. It is imperative to acknowledge the harm done in the name of faith and to actively champion child protection within their communities. This means moving beyond platitudes to implement robust, transparent accountability structures. It requires a theological reevaluation that centers on the inherent dignity and vulnerability of children, aligning practices with the true spirit of compassion and justice. For religious leaders, this is an opportunity to lead with integrity, to demonstrate that faith can be a force for healing and protection, not for harm. It's about rebuilding trust, not just with survivors, but with a skeptical world watching, to see if faith communities will truly live up to their highest ideals. Educators, whether in secular or faith-based settings, must learn from this history to create truly safe and nurturing environments. This involves adopting trauma-informed care practices, understanding child development, and empowering student voices. It means fostering a culture where questioning authority is seen as critical thinking, not defiance. For educators, the lesson is clear. A child's psychological and emotional safety is paramount. It's about designing curricula and school cultures that promote resilience, critical thinking, and a deep respect for individual autonomy. This historical analysis provides a stark reminder of what happens when these principles are neglected. Historians have a vital role in continuing to unearth and analyze this complex past. By meticulously documenting the systemic factors, the cultural contexts, and the individual stories, they provide the crucial framework for understanding how such abuses could occur. Their work ensures that these painful lessons are not forgotten, serving as a constant reminder of the vigilance required to protect the vulnerable. For historians, this is an ongoing project of truth-telling, connecting past injustices to present-day challenges. It's about providing the evidence needed to inform policy reform and to support the healing journeys of survivors. The dark history of Christian boarding schools in America is a stark reminder of the profound responsibility that comes with authority, especially when entrusted with the care of children. It compels us to ask difficult questions about faith, power, and accountability. This is not about condemning faith itself, but about ensuring that institutions claiming to operate on Christian principles truly embody compassion, justice, and protection for the most vulnerable. We must believe survivors, amplify their voices, and support their healing journeys. We must demand robust policy reform, ensuring that no institution, regardless of its religious affiliation, operates without transparent oversight and accountability. And we must foster a culture where every child's safety and dignity are non-negotiable. This is a critical moment for historians, educators, religious leaders, and trauma survivors to unite. Let us learn from the past, advocate for the present, and build a future where every child is truly safe, truly seen, and truly loved. Join us in this vital work. Take action now. Educate yourself. Research organizations like HEAL, Helping Everyone Abuse-Free Living, and Breaking Code Silence. Support survivors. Listen to their stories, offer compassion, and advocate for resources for trauma recovery. Demand accountability. Contact your legislators and religious leaders, urging them to support policies that ensure robust oversight and protection for children in all residential institutions. Share this message. Help raise awareness so that these stories are never forgotten and history is never repeated.